Welcome to the Cave Creek business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. It's Monday, April 12th, 2021, and it is 6:01-ish. Item 1.2, roll call. All 5 board members are present. There is a quorum. I think I saw Ms. Lynch. Mr. Leedy from the executive leadership team is here, and Dr. Miller is absent. Item 1.3, I'm out of breath. Formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's presented.
And then I would like to pull out 5.2 from action consent and make that a separate item, please.
Okay, and Member Brown, where would you like that placed?
We can do that immediately after action consent.
Okay, all righty. So there is a motion on the table and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 1.3 is approved as amended. Item 1.4, call to fill out forms for call to the public and address agenda items. And I believe we have some. And we have how many? 23. Okay, so because there are so many, we're going to go 2 minutes instead of 3 on call to the public. Item 1.5, Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is being led by Zadie, Leah, and Gwendolyn Jensen. And are the Mazogs also participating in the pledge, or? Okay, all righty. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, girls. All righty. 1.6, President's Report. I would just like to thank Dr. Jensen and Principal Bagwell for inviting the board to visit and view the Personalized Professional Project Conference last Wednesday. I attended 4 of those breakout sessions, and they were really interesting, and I'm hoping that the teachers got something of value from that too. I thought it was really interesting. There was a wide spectrum of offerings. So thank you for inviting the board. And board comments.
I also attended the conference last week, and I appreciate the effort that went into it. And in addition to the amazing information that was made available, I thought it was such a wonderful way to honor our teachers and to allow them to have a professional development solely focused on topics of particular interest to them and share it with their colleagues. So, way to go. I thought it was really awesome, and I hope Cave Creek continues to do that.
I also was able to attend the Personalized Professional Project Conference at Lone Mountain. I wish to thank Dr. Jensen and Mr. Bagwell for inviting us, the board members, to attend. I was able to sit in on 5 different presentations. Amy Dummett, Shelby Lutz, Linda Fox, and Monica Barrows, Rita Antoni, and Madison Burke were the presenters of the 5 that I got to go and view. Very well prepared, very passionate about their subject that they were communicating with to the other teachers. I think it was a great event, something that Mr. Bagwell and Dr. Jensen kind of thought out of the box and put this together, and I thought it was very well done. As a original Lone Mountain Eagle parent, I was nice to run into Ms. Barrett, Mrs. Dummett, and Mrs. Kramer. That was 3 teachers that were there back when we opened the school in 2002. So it was great to visit and reminisce, and all in all, it was a great afternoon. So thanks for the chance to witness and the invitation.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to pass along a couple of things. I had the pleasure over my spring break to visit a couple of our campuses. I got to tour Desert Willow. I hadn't been there since I left in 2012, so it was very nice to be there again. I got a nice tour from Principal Weiss, and then also went to Cactus Shadows and got a good tour of all of what's going on there. So I want to thank Principal Linning for that. So those were really great. Went to do more. We were going to do horseshoe trails, but unfortunately the principal there was otherwise engaged with a lot of activities, so he couldn't make it. So I'm going to try and get to the other ones. But I did also attend a Cactus Shadows baseball game this week, and that was outstanding. They played an amazing game where they really looked talented, and a lot of people showed up. I was really pleased with how many people were there. So I definitely encourage you to go out and see these guys play. It was really impressive. So I just wanted to mention those things.
River Walker?
Yeah, recently it's nice to see things starting to get back a little to normal. I was at the Fine Arts Center and got to see a show there one weekend, which some of our high school students were in, so that was great to see. Also, my son's third grade class did a little performing arts in the outdoor space outside the Fine Arts Center. So it's nice to see teachers thinking outside the box on how to still present and kind of get families to support their children.
Thank you, Board. Item 1.7, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Monroe.
President Hatcher and members of the board, I appreciate the support of the board, the staff and the teachers, as the board is very involved and is at these programs and schools. Just know that they appreciate that and that visibility from you. So thank you for being present. So just a few recognitions and announcements for me to the board and to the community. AZM2 is underway. That is our state testing for grades 3 through 8 and grade 10. That began about 2 weeks ago, and I appreciate the teaching and learning department. I appreciate our principals and our teachers for ensuring that goes very smoothly. Typically that happens in April in a school year, that's when the state testing occurs. So we're underway, and everything's going off without a hitch to this point, which is great. Jessica Brashear, I would like to congratulate her. She has been named our valedictorian for the class of 2021 for Cactus Shadows High School. Alicia Rifkin was named the salutatorian. So our top 2%, 3%, 5 and 10% of the kids at Cactus Shadows from our graduating class are very impressive students. I want to congratulate them for their recognitions, and the board will hear a few of them speaking at our commencement ceremony. Speaking of baseball, Mr. Fortney, I want to congratulate pitcher Derek Schaefer. In 5 innings against Ironwood, Derek gave up 1 hit, and he struck out 11 for the victory in 5 innings. And that was noted in the Arizona High School Baseball Top Performers for Week 1. So that was quite the performance. I'd like to congratulate Nia Kermy. She's a 5th grader at Black Mountain Elementary School. She also competed at the Arizona State Swimming Championship meet and brought home multiple medals representing Cave Creek and Black Mountain. Did you know that our Cactus Shadows literary magazine won a gold crown recently from the Columbia Scholastic Press Association? In fact, I've been told that our high school publications they have multiple awards that they've been recognized for. Horseshoe Trails Elementary School staff and students recently had the Blue Bell Creamery treated the staff and students to some ice cream in recognition of their National Blue Ribbon School Award, which is very prestigious, this last month. I'd like to congratulate our Cactus Shadows basketball team. They were 5A region champions, if you didn't know. And both our head coaches, Richie Willis and Zach Washut, they were named Regional Coaches of the Year at our high school basketball program. As the board and the community may be aware, at Cactus Shadows this weekend, we are hosting a vaccination event on Saturday and Sunday in conjunction with Albertsons, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. for community members to receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccination, which is 1 dose. And so that'll be on Saturday and Sunday. That is a walk-in event. And currently there'll be things that are posted for appointments. And depending on how those fill up, board members will expand who can get those appointments and vaccinations as we see the demand. So I'm anticipating that will change over the next few days. I'd like to congratulate Rylan Davidson. You're going to hear his name often. Rylan's a senior, and he's been a student in our district since kindergarten. Listen to this. Rylan has logged 938 and a half hours for the Superintendent's Challenge over 4 years. Now, what are those hours? Almost 1,000 hours of service, of volunteering. Since fifth grade, Rylan has been working with Ryan House, a pediatric palliative, respite, and hospice care center. So he's fundraised and he's worked directly with the children. In fact, he's the teen board president. They held a fundraising event yesterday that included the Cactus Shadows High School Jazz Band and Jackie Paul, who shared their musical talents. In that vein, I'd like to share in the Superintendent's Challenge, which involves service and volunteer hours, we have about 48 seniors who participated over 4 years. 36 seniors completed the challenge and will receive an honor code for an honor cord for commencement. And here's the staggering statistic: 12,365 hours of community service for those seniors over 4 years. So let's give those seniors a round of applause. It warms my heart as the superintendent to see our wonderful teenagers and our wonderful youth not even being great students, but just being great citizens who are caring and volunteer and service oriented. And then they also show that on our fields, on our stages, and in our athletic facilities. Finally, I'd like to mention that recently Lone Mountain Elementary School, Horseshoe Trails, and Black Mountain have held kindergarten events. So if a family has registered for kindergarten to start in August, they've held these great events that I've popped in at, where the incoming kindergarten students can come and get to know the teachers and get to know the facilities. And it's very heartwarming to see our future kindergartners at these events. And so I appreciate our principals and our kindergarten staff for making them feel welcome. And that is my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Item 2, presentation of awards for schools and departments. Item 2.1, Lone Mountain Elementary School Excellence Awards. And school presentation presented by Dr. Court Monroe and Dr. Patty Jensen.
Testing. All right, you can hear me. So this has got to be the best part of the meeting. This is when we get to recognize the excellence. I apologize for, you know how it is trying to speak in a mask. This is when we get to recognize the excellence that's just in our community. And for this month, it's Lone Mountain Elementary School. And for those of you who are from Lone Mountain, know that there's wonderful families, students, teachers, staff, and principals. So I appreciate you coming to recognize these phenomenal people. So Dr. Jensen, do you want to come on up? All right, so first we're going to recognize Carla Chamberlain. So Carla, come on up. How about a round of applause for Carla? So, you know, when you blush, no one can see it through the mask, okay? So I'm going to read a lot of great things about Carla. All right, you ready? Carla Chamberlain demonstrates excellence at Lone Mountain every day in her consistent professionalism. She consistently serves on important committees at Lone Mountain that directly influence student growth. She blends multiple teaching approaches to provide targeted interventions for struggling readers that results in students who are able to read and enjoy reading. While our goal is always to exit students from the Reading Success Program, Miss Chamberlain has done such a great job of eliminating the stigma associated with reading intervention that students are begging to go with her. Carla has embraced what disability advocate Temple Grandin says, quote, "There needs to be a lot more emphasis on what a child can do instead of what a child cannot do." Mrs. Chamberlain ensures that all students are able to connect to the classroom community and curriculum by focusing on their strengths. Thank you for being excellent, Ms. Chamberlain. All right. All right, Allison Masog. Come on up, Allison. How about a round of applause for Allison? Coretta Scott King said, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate action of its members." Allison has served as PTO president for the past 2 years at Lone Mountain and is a true representative of what makes the Lone Mountain a great community. During a difficult year, when there were no perks for serving on the PTO, Allison has consistently led our school community in demonstrating what it means to put students and community first with her compassion. She has volunteered countless hours to plan fundraising events, all of which have placed our students' needs first. She spends her free time organizing fundraisers, managing the PTO Facebook page, and editing bylaws for our PTO so they can put students first. Allison, thank you for being excellent. Congratulations. All right, next is Paola Angulo. Come on up, Paola. All right. Paola is a kind classmate, an inspiring leader, and an intrinsically motivated learner. She's a model student, both inside and outside of the classroom, and brings joy to every group she joins. She inspires her peers with her positive attitude, genuine heart, and love for learning. Paola has a growth mindset and is always striving for excellence. She came to Lone Mountain in 2nd grade with very little English. She now communicates in 3 languages fluently: English, Spanish, and Braille. Paola excels in academics and holds her own in any class discussion. She has a great sense of humor, and she will not take no for an answer. Some of our fondest memories of Paola are watching her perform in our musical theater program last year and watching her play Gaga Ball with her friends at recess. She sets personal goals and then exceeds them. Paola, in the words of Winnie the Pooh, "Promise me you'll remember you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think." Thank you for being excellent, Paola. Congratulations. Yes. Okay, los padres de Paola, quiero decirles que tenemos mucho orgullo en cuanto a Paola. La gente, el staff por ahí en Lone Mountain sabe que ella es una estudiante muy buena, que se pone sus esfuerzos en todo lo que hace. Y ustedes tienen una hija muy especial y muy buena. Y es un buen estudiante. Así que después voy a traducir lo que leí en inglés para que ustedes lo puedan tener, ¿ok? Felicitaciones.
Okay, President Hatcher, members of the governing board, and Dr. Monroe, thank you for always making time to celebrate excellence in our schools. This year at Lone Mountain, we all read the book, Bear Came Along. Dr. Monroe actually read it to a few of our classes for us, by Richard T. Morris. And in the story, a group of animals discover friendship and adventure when they jump into a river. They each bring their unique strengths to the river, and when they run into a big waterfall, they hang on to each other. From this book, we learned that sometimes it takes a big challenge, like the waterfall, for us to recognize how much we need to hang on to one another. Over the past year, we've grown closer as a learning community at Lone Mountain because of the challenges that we all faced because of a global pandemic. While academic learning is always our top priority, this year we have focused on connecting with one another and building community. I've asked a few of our students to share with you personally
how we have gone about making sure that all of our students are connected to our Lone Mountain community.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm a 5th grader and a new student at Lone Mountain. I think morning meeting has helped me a lot. During the morning meeting, we get to know our classmates so that we can build strong friendships. I really enjoyed the Get to Know You games because I could connect with my classmates to make new friends.
Hi, my name is Bailey. I'm a 3rd grader and I have gone to Lone Mountain since kindergarten. This year was especially hard because of masks and new kids moving in, quarantines, and COVID. But we've gotten through it by sticking together and making new people feel comfortable. One of my favorite things is that we earn Soaring Eagles time every Friday, and it is really fun because we get to try new things with our friends like magnetic tiles, drawing, Play-Doh, and creating fun stuff.
Hi, I'm Camilla. I'm in 5th grade. I've gone to Lone Mountain since kindergarten. I feel like sharing good news with your classmates each day gives us a new chance to make a brand new friend. It also remembers to help us to remember to be grateful even when we are in quarantine or something bad might happen in our lives.
Hi, my name is Annabelle, and I'm a kindergartner at Lone Mountain. I love school. I have so many friends, and we do lots of fun things together. My favorite fun thing to do is Soaring Eagles Cup on Fridays because we earn time to play with our friends.
So as you can see, we've worked hard this year to build connections with each other at Lone Mountain, even when we felt disconnected. So I'll leave you with a slightly modified version of how our book this year ends. And that is, for this year's Lone Mountain, so many different people living their separate lives, but they didn't know they were in it together until Lone Mountain Elementary and COVID came along. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lone Mountain. You kids that presented, the 4 of you girls just now that spoke about your year during COVID, when you get older, you're going to look back and say, that made me who I am. That's part of what made me stronger. So you get a big hand from me for all of you students for what you've gone through this year. Thank you for presenting to us. Item 3, public comments, and we do have several. So I will, yes? Sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. So if you're here for the Lone Mountain presentation, you may go ahead and leave. We're going to reset the room to let the other speakers come in. Thank you for coming, Lone Mountain. If they need the chairs spread out, probably so. are we good to go, Ms. Gatto? Okay. All righty. Item 3, public comments. According to ARS 38-431.01H, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are, number 1, board member may respond if there is direct criticism of the board member. Number 2, board member may direct staff to look into a matter, or number 3, board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. So y'all may have been outside when I told the previous crowd that we have about 20-some. So instead of 3 minutes, there will be 2 minutes, and I can see that some of you have deferred to a speaker, so that will be cumulative for that speaker. Okay, and Mr. Leedy, like before, I'll let you know when it's okay. Our first speaker, Courtney Olliart. And Ms. Olliart, come on up.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Monroe and board members. I'm the proud parent of 2 kids in the Spanish immersion program. Excuse me. This program is so dear to my heart. My kids have been in Spanish immersion since they were prior to speaking. Upon moving to Arizona nearly 5 years ago, we chose this district because of the immersion program and the value the district leadership placed on having a robust immersion program and world language program. We chose to have our kids in Spanish immersion, not just to learn Spanish, but to connect them to their Latino side, to that half of their life. When kids learn a second language through traditional means, the cultural piece is left out. They're frequently just taught how to speak in a language in a very academic way. As Buffy St. Marie said, language and culture cannot be separated. Language is vital to understanding our unique cultural perspectives. Language is a tool that is used to explore and experience our cultures and perspectives that are embedded in our culture. In addition, studies show that immersion programs are the most effective way to learn language proficiency, literacy. It improves social emotional skills, develops flexible minds, increases problem-solving and math skills, and enables a global perspective, all of which does nothing but to inspire excellence and sets our kids up for success in a global world. As other districts open immersion programs, Cave Creek Unified District 93 will continue to lose students and staff to these other districts. We need to act urgently as a community to find a fiscally responsible solution. In my opinion, it is imperative that the successful and desired program remain, and I fully support all efforts to maintain the Spanish immersion program and the world language program here in Cave Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Joaquin Olliart.
Hello, Dr. Monroe and board members. I'm going to tell you why you should keep Spanish immersion. A few reasons are because in some jobs, you would take business trips to places that speak Spanish, like Mexico. A person would need to know how to speak Spanish and interact with other people. Another reason is because when I go to college and there's a class I want to take but it requires Spanish, then I can be part of that class because I would know Spanish. Also, I'm Latino and this is a part of my culture. Those are some reasons why I want Spanish immersion.
Thank you. Next speaker, Erica Rudin.
Good evening, thank you. I'm here to speak in support of Spanish, the immersion programs overall, Spanish immersion in particular. I have 2 children at Desert Willow Elementary and like Courtney, we chose Cave Creek and the district because of the program that has been a leader, has Scottsdale learned from us, Deer Valley learned from us. Everyone came to us to learn how to do it, and it would be a shame to lose the program now. And like Courtney just said, the immersion education allows not just for the language, speaking the language, but learning the cultural background. Last year, there was a fantastic Carnival program at Desert Willow that my children got to participate in, and it was amazing. They still talk about it. And students learn to code switch and think differently. Their brains are wired up differently. It leads them to success later on in life. And the world is shrinking and growing at the same time. It is such a benefit to be fluent in a second language. And Cape Creek is providing that for my children. I love that, and we need to find a way to keep it. So I am definitely in favor of it. And it just seems like just even discussing cutting such a successful program where there is a waiting list, where there are people who want it and it's successful, seems like a rash decision to a problem that might not be long-term.
Thank you. Raul Valdez, and it looks like he will have 6 minutes. He's speaking for Ruben or Robin Palethorpe and Dara Browning. So 6 minutes, Mr. Leedy, please.
Good evening, President Hatcher, Governing Board Superintendent Monroe, community and staff members. January 1st, 25th, New Year's Day. I still remember the satisfaction I had when I first came to the U.S. and was able to communicate to someone non-speaking in my native language. I was excited and happy. I'm also happy of graduating from a global cohort a year ago, where I met all sorts of professionals, hungry to understand different cultures and being part of a global business network. Just at my job, the daily interaction I have with a global team of professionals coming from different backgrounds and cultures. And just as today, I'm having the privilege to speak and share my story to this board and community. I'm pretty confident there are many other stories like this in our community, and because I understand firsthand what learning a different language and culture opened the doors for me, is what I'm looking for my son. I do believe a great portion of our community is looking and wanted to share the same enjoyment stories that I have shared with you today. Today, 1 billion people speaks English, either as a native language or learn through a different mean. 1.12 billion speaks Chinese Mandarin. Spanish, 534 million. If you combine the three together, you can speak almost about 3 billion people of the world population. Imagine how powerful it is that you can say your kid can speak those three languages and can speak to almost 3 billion people of the world. But also, I want to talk today about cultural intelligence and why immersion is important for that. As many of our other previous comments said, cultural intelligence and language is intertwined. For example, China, from a business perspective, has one of the highest expatriate assignment failure rates in the world. And you want to know why? It's not because there are no Americans that can speak Chinese or Mexicans or anywhere in the world. There are people that can't speak Mandarin, but the failures are mainly based on the cultural part of it. So, as many of our speakers said, there is some connection between cultural and language, so you cannot separate them both. Cultural intelligence means that you live and work in a culturally different environment. Immersion, I believe, provides and prepares for that. Just think about our kids are in different classrooms and speaking to different persons, coming from different backgrounds and different cultures. Just by learning a language, I don't think they can achieve that. So do we think really learning a language is enough to achieve a cultural intelligence? I don't think so. I still believe that the Mandarin Immersion Program is the road to cultural intelligence at the time, and the time to keep it going is today. If we don't continue the Mandarin Immersion Program, I believe it's going to be a long-term damage to the district. And I think that if there are roadblocks, no matter what they are, I'm a true believer on the support and commitment of every stakeholder in the community to make the Mandarin Immersion Program a long-term success. Just today, I brought this book from China from my trip, one of the logistic companies in the world. It's just a souvenir, but it's all written in Mandarin. I was asking my son if he would be able to read it once he finished his immersion program, and he said, yes, Dad, but only if I continue. So as you can see, there's a lot of excitement in the community, it's a lot of excitement in the kids, and I think the future for the kids is well ahead, and the Mandarin Immersion is just a tool to help them, and it's going to be a success for them to use it. So I please ask you to reconsider again and work with the community to continue with the Mandarin Immersion Program and other immersion programs in the district. So thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker is Holly Weddle, who is also speaking for Anna Nicolazzi and Erica Sieber. So 6 minutes.
President Hatcher, members of the board, Superintendent Monroe, community and staff members. At this point, I probably don't have to introduce myself, but my name is Holly Weddle, and I will just get started into it. In a public letter, it was cited that a decline in enrollments was the reason for the reduction in force. However, Horseshoe Trails had a pre-pandemic enrollment of 606 students. At the time of the RIF, we had 596 students. We lost 10 students and RIF'd 5 core curriculum immersion teachers. Perhaps the district didn't realize this, since the district as a whole lost enrollments. I'm here to tell you today that the reason I keep writing and talking is because I know we are the exception to that rule, and our immersion program is very strong. We have the interest. Parents here are not focused on high school graduation, but on raising that bar. We view world language not as a special or a school activity, but as a core curriculum that enriches our children's understanding of the world around them. We've seen firsthand that immersion helps the whole classroom in ways that children couldn't get at home. We have the demand. The last 3 years, the program was getting more enrollments than English only. The kindergarten class was in a lotto status just before COVID hit. If the program were put back in place, we could easily bring those students at home back to our school with the immersion program. Furthermore, we can re-enroll our new kindergarten class, one of which is my daughter, who had already applied for the program. I'm well networked with our community and feel confident that if we changed course on the program this coming school year, our immersion program would be close to or above 50% of total enrollments. To add to that, we have solutions ready to allow students to enter the program at any grade, K through 12. We have the funding from out-of-district enrollments alone. Furthermore, we have additional funding the district has not made use of in the past. Lastly, you have parents ready to supplement if the district is on board with keeping the program alive. Finding teachers in Arizona, and particularly for our program, is difficult. Luckily, we parents are relentless and have been able to identify new, previously unidentified sources for Mandarin immersion teachers. These roles are valuable. If the district embraces the program and teachers feel their position will last, we are confident that this difficult problem will be solved. Sustainability. The truth is, not a single program offered is sustainable unless district leadership supports it. That's really what it comes down to. Since we have supply, we have demand and funding. But on the flip side, sustainability is really an interesting question. Parents are committed to the program, and the program isn't offered everywhere. Currently, we represent over 40% of enrollments. If the program stays, we will stay. And that's not just next year, that's through high school. That's how the language program was designed. Immersion is done in elementary school, but the program is designed to go all the way through. It also supplements other programs that parents value. AP, the International Baccalaureate program, it was designed to go all the way K through 12. If the program doesn't stay, is the district really ready to figure out how to attract hundreds of students midway through their education? Probably best to choose the families that chose you first. This is a critical point where we can really change the direction. If leadership commits to wanting and trying to make the immersion program work, the parents will most definitely be ready to do their part and more. Most would agree, and I think I've already proven this. This is the moment where we can change the tone and we can celebrate together that our kids will get back the consistency and continuity they deserve. The kids need this the most. Ask the teachers. The kids are confused. They're sad. They constantly ask each other which school they'll be going to next year. All they really want is to have consistency back in their life. Leadership has the choice right now, today, to make that happen. Make the decision to change the course on this. Imagine the difference that could be made if we started working together on these problems. It's a brighter future for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Julie White.
Well, I'm not going to be as good as that. Good evening, President Hatcher, Governing Board, Superintendent Monroe, staff, and community. My name is Julie White, and I'm sorry, this is just, I'm really sorry. I am a stakeholder and a parent of a first and third grader there, sitting in the back. And only a small snippet about myself really is that we actually moved to Cave Creek for putting them in Cave Creek Elementary Schools. My husband did months and months of research into putting our kids into elementary school. We were raised in public schools in Arizona. We believe in public schools. I don't want to send my kids to another district. I don't want to send my kids to charter or private. I want them to stay in Cave Creek. We moved here for these schools. And immersion was the core reason. Our home school's Desert Willow, and we were not guaranteed a spot because of the wait list, so we picked Horseshoe Trails in Mandarin because we wanted to be in immersion. I so want a few more years for my children to be able to be fluent in one of the hardest languages on the planet. If they can do that, they can conquer anything, and I feel like it makes the core students coming out of this district that much greater, that much stronger, that much better test scores, that much better chance to give the district all the results it wants for the students coming out of this district. So there are a lot of parents that have spoken and have a really valid points. All I'm asking for is, first and foremost, want to thank you. I know I've reached out to several of you and want to thank you for the time you've done so far and all this listening that you've done tonight and continue to do. It takes a lot of time, and I know we are not a very quiet group. So I just want to say thank you for your time, and please keep listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Marcy Fusco. Pardon me if I'm saying anyone's name incorrectly.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Marcy Fusco. I have 3 children in the Cave Creek Unified School District. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm the director of Mini Museum. I'm a garden parent. I'm a classroom volunteer, and I also painted the mural at Horseshoe Trails. The immersion program is more than just learning a language for my family. It's a community of people who are invested in their children's education. As I look around the room here, I see the parents who make our schools special. These are the same people who volunteer in the classroom. They're the ones who raise money for the PTO, and they're the people who are involved in their schools, children's, and our community. When the immersion program is gone, many of us will leave the district and will take our time and our talent with us. Part of what makes our immersion program special is community involvement. We're a family. Our children's future is in the balance. I hope that you consider the strong bond of our community and the leadership of the people in this room in the future when you consider moving forward, and I hope you reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Krista Saunders, and she is speaking for Susan Fox, Jessica Yang, and Elizabeth Manzi. Sorry, 8 minutes.
So I'm actually reading this on behalf of my husband. He's a surgeon, so he couldn't be here tonight because he's doing surgery. Good evening, governing board members, President Hatcher, Dr. Monroe, community and staff members. My name is Krisha Saunders, and I have a second grader and a fourth grader in the Mandarin Immersion Program. My husband wanted to talk about really what seemed that's been communicated to us, what the core issues are with the program. So first, let's talk about sustainability. I think the program speaks for itself. The Mandarin program alone brought in 63 out-of-district students, which is a revenue, if you break that down, $375,000 that would not have otherwise existed. I myself moved here to have my children at Horseshoe Trails solely and exclusively for the Mandarin program. Our family, along with many others, because I've spoken to them extensively, will leave the district. It is much easier to keep your current customers and keep the program and retain these families than to try and solicit new families. Immersion families, as Holly mentioned, are also more likely to stay through high school because of the program. I'm sure that you're well aware that our district has historically struggled with increasing our capture rate. In addition, we have not been able to pass a bond override in order to provide many of the same programs that other districts are able to provide. With schools like Sky Crossing coming in less than 5 miles away, brand new programs with access to much more funding, we have the programs that attract families outside the district and stop our current families from leaving things that are 5 minutes away. The program had a waiting list in kindergarten prior to COVID, and its numbers superseded its non-immersion counterparts. So that's the sustainability aspect. Let's talk funding. Mandarin is deemed as a critical language by the US government, so much so that the National Security Agency provides yearly grants in support of institutions that conduct K through 16 Mandarin education student programs. These grants can be applied for on a yearly basis. The goal is to increase the number of U.S. citizens learning crucial foreign languages with a goal of increasing the number of advanced level speakers in the target language. These grants are in excess of $350,000 on average per year. Typically, the grants are applied for in September and granted in January. However, with the increasing anti-Asian sentiment, one of the programs is being there's a trend towards the dissolution of many of these programs. So I am hopeful this is not the case for our program. In response to this heightened state, the State Department and National Security Agency are actually offering a multi-year off-cycle grant due on May 7th. That's going to be granted in July. Horseshoe Trails principal has agreed to attend this information along with several other Horseshoe Trails families. These families are willing to donate their personal time and energy at great cost into making this happen. In addition, our family has personal connections to the ambassador, as well as my brother-in-law who works for the State Department specializing in Asian affairs. And they agreed to write us a letter of recommendation for this grant to give us a leg up on potential competition. A parent committee has also investigated other sustainable revenue sources and found in excess of 20 that can be pursued in the new grant cycle starting in September. The decision to cut the Mandarin program was seemingly short-sighted and uninformed. The program, at minimum, should be reinstated. You guys, as board members, have the power to reinstate the program. You can add it as an agenda item, and I would request that you do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Nate Weddle. He is speaking for Heather Maldonado. Kaya? Is Kaya here? Okay. It's just a first name, Kaya. Stacy Leschner and Kirsten Charking. So 10 minutes. pardon me?
It's Nate Weddle?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear the first part because
Yeah,
of
sorry.
the applause. All right. Good evening, President Hatcher, governing board members, Superintendent, Dr. Monroe, Mr. Tim Leedy, staff and community. Once again, my name is Nate Weddle, the father of a second grader at Horseshoe Trails who has been enrolled in the Mandarin Immersion program starting in kindergarten. I also have a daughter beginning kindergarten this coming fall, and she is also enrolled in the program. I'm also heavily involved in the local Cave Creek community, acting as the director of the U8 Girls Desert Foothills Soccer Club League, in addition to coaching both of my daughter's teams. As I outlined at the last board meeting, I understand the deficit facing the district resulting from the pandemic and the challenges that lie ahead, but the termination of the Mandarin Immersion program is not in the best interest of the district in either the short term, the 21-22 school year, or the long term. That is why I do not understand the reasoning behind the termination of the program, because if it is to decrease the deficit, then it's not the correct decision, because it is not going to do that. My wife Holly and I have provided you with several different scenarios that were conservative in the decreased enrollment projections resulting from the elimination of the program. And all those scenarios show the district is overall in a worse financial deficit when eliminating the program. Do you guys have any questions? Do you think our enrollment projections are not reasonable? If so, can you provide your assumptions so we can use them to rerun the scenarios? Or can you provide us with your analysis showing the district has a decreased budget deficit when eliminating the program? We have asked for it, but still have not been provided with it. Do you know it only takes 10 students before you have lost more funding than decreased expenses resulting from the reduction in one teacher? Not to mention the negative impact that larger class sizes have on our A+ ratings. Overall, I think the district is not being efficiently managed from either an operational or financial perspective. And here's a few examples. Number one, why are we focusing so much attention right now on reaching out to students who have never attended CCUSD through a survey to collect information to try to determine why our capture rate is only 50%? Are we really going to be able to realistically address any of these reasons they do not attend CCUSD given the budget deficit facing the district? Is there perhaps a better use of our time and resources? Right now, our efforts should be focused on recapturing the students we lost in August of 2020. These are the students that will have a higher probability of winning back and will require a significant lower level of effort to do so. The more students you get to open enroll right now, the smaller the budget deficit is for the 21-22 school year. Number two, we are so concerned about our capture rate, yet we are not doing anything to keep our current students enrolled. Let's look at this from a business perspective. For simplicity reasons, let us assume that only once a year families have the ability to choose where they go to school. What this means is that all our families are what we'll consider here customers, are one-year contracts with an option to renew. For a business, the renewal revenue is typically easier to capture than new revenue. As a result, businesses have account managers that are constantly checking in with customers throughout the year to make sure they are satisfied with their service and are going to renew when the time comes. If they are not, then they work to address this. Is the district periodically checking in with these families to make sure that they are satisfied with the quality of the education they are receiving and know what is important? The answer is no, because if you would have known that the significant negative impact the elimination of the program has had on the district. The current number three, I also think the current operational structure is very horrible. For the 1920 school year, the average cost to educate a student in the district was $6,714, compared to a state average of $6,395. Put in actual dollars, that's $1.8 million more we're spending to educate our students than the average Arizona school district is. When specifically looking at the elementary schools, the most was spent per student at Desert Sun at $10,812 versus the least amount spent per student at Horseshoe Trails of $6,411. Do we need to change the operating structure to become more efficient? These expense savings would free up funding to provide additional programs to keep and attract students. Everyone would benefit. In closing, an M&O override passed is the easiest way to provide quality programs to students. But is it the only way? What is the likelihood that one passes given historical results? Let us not rely on an M&O override to fix the budget deficit, and then if it does not pass, blame the voters for the district's problems. Instead, let us think creatively and work together, the administration and the parents. In one 30-minute meeting my wife and I had with Dr. Jensen and Mr. Pettinato, we were able to generate ideas on how to move the Mandarin Immersion program forward. Imagine what we could do if we continue to work together. There are other ways to balance the budget while still offering the quality programs that have set the district apart from others. For so many families, these programs are the reason why so many have entrusted CCUSD with their children's education, and without them, the district is starting down a dark path. Now, in solidarity for all that were here at the last board meeting and poured their hearts out, I would like to take a moment of silence to reflect. Thank you for your guys' time.
Thank you. We normally can't say anything except for specifically the three things that I read in the admonition. So I would like to, I'm going to combine a couple of these things. I would like to combine item 2 and 3, that staff look into it. I know the staff has looked into it. And to be placed on a future agenda. So that all sides can be heard. Thank you. Moving forward, item 4. Presentation information reports, 4.1, Human Resources Director's Report, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy and Ms. Caroline Lynch.
President Hatcher, members of the board, thank you so much. I'm going to present tonight on the Human Resources Department. I did not have the rest of the department come since I knew we were going to be a packed house, but I wanted to let you know who the members of my team are, because while I'm the one standing up in front of you, I am definitely not the one doing all of the work. So we have Arlene Lair, and I just awarded her with her 20-year pin. She's been with the district for 20 years. She's the certified coordinator. We have April Staley. We were able to pull her over from finance. Thank you very much, Tim, where she was the payroll coordinator before, but she's our classified coordinator. Nancy McCrossan, who's the benefits coordinator, Jenny Cassiati, who's the administrative assistant to HR, but I would really call her the HR specialist because she is a jack of all trades and does everything for everyone. So that is my team. We also had Jessica O'Sullivan. She has resigned, but she was the sub-coordinator for the fall, and without her, we could not have gotten up and running, and so I'll speak more to that in a few minutes. So I wanted to start off with just I know that you know this, but I wanted to make it really clear the landscape of education right now in Arizona. According to the Arizona School Personnel Administrator Association, more than 10% of the state's teaching vacancies, 6,145 teaching positions or classrooms, were left unfilled at the beginning of this school year. At least 460 teachers have resigned, retired, or took an unpaid leave due to the virus. And another 200 didn't report to work or quit. From August to October of 2020, retirements were up 24% from the year before. So that's the landscape that we were going into and dealing with for the 2021 school year, as you guys are all well aware of. So I wanted to just set the stage for when we roll into what we're about to for now, because you guys made a really brave decision opening up the schools for September 8th, and then HR supported your decision, and then the teachers did a bang-up job, and we have been rocking and rolling since then. So let's talk about COVID-19 and the benefits that we offer. So we had 122 CCUSD employees receive the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, benefit due to having either COVID-like symptoms, being exposed to someone with COVID, or testing positive for COVID, or losing childcare or schooling due to COVID. Those employees used 740 days of this FFCRA leave, costing approximately $12,755. And that was just from September 8th, 2020 through December 18th, 2020. HR met one-on-one with 107 employees to discuss arrangements and/or accommodations regarding returning to work. And this was in July, before we had determined what we were going to be doing, because people were worried. People were concerned. People had family members at home with underlying conditions, and they were just concerned. And then once the decision to go back in person was made, we met with additional employees as well to ensure that people who needed accommodations got the accommodations that we met, and that's how we actually staffed the CCAOE faculty from those meetings. CCUSD has 575 benefit-eligible employees, with 484 of those electing our medical plans for the 2021 school year. 91 employees that do not elect those benefits have other medical plans. All benefit-eligible employees are provided with free medical, life, and short-term disability, as well as 12 sick days during this 2021 school year. Classified staff, this is the skeleton of our district. We have 307 classified staff right now. We've hired 50 new classified employees and 10 subs hired into full-time positions this school year. People are working their tails off for these kiddos. And for this upcoming school year, we've offered 245 work agreements issued. So let's talk subs and applicants, because this is interesting. Our sub pool is primarily made up of retirees. And a lot of the retirees were incredibly reluctant to come in during the worldwide pandemic, especially before the vaccinations. Absolutely understandable. So we were really concerned about our sub pool. We hired 53 new certified substitutes this year and 10 new classified substitutes. And then I want you to see the difference between last year's daily average and this year's daily average of filled positions and unfilled positions. Last year, it was 27.33 filled positions per day and 2.28 unfilled jobs. This year, 25.23 and 2.25. We did a better job filling our positions this year than last year, and that speaks greatly to the front office staff at each site, the substitutes that we hired, and our sub coordinator. So they all definitely deserve a round of applause. They were hustling. For this past year, there were 330 certified teacher applications received and reviewed, 37 certified professional applications. So that would be nurses, occupational therapists, speech paths, school psychs, 41 administrator applications reviewed and received, and 245 classified applications received and reviewed. And then we have our certified staff. So 69 certified positions were filled, and that includes teachers and that other classification of employees I was talking about, the certified professionals. 4 administrative positions were filled for the school year, 3 of whom are sitting here now with Tim, myself, and Dr. Monroe. 44 new hires. 13 open positions were filled by long-term substitutes who have just been breaking their backs, a lot of them up at the Cactus Shadows. These subs filled in for our leave of absences for teachers who requested those and for any other open positions. We had 4 open positions who were filled by contracted personnel, mainly in the special education department, and 61 certified resignations for those staff members who just felt that this was not a time that they could be working right now. We have had a few return already, which is wonderful news. 9 new positions were created for the 2021 school year. And that's what I can really say about HR right now. We are here to serve the staff at CCUSD, and we love what we do, and I've got a great team. Does anybody have any questions?
It was very informative.
Yeah, President Hatcher, members of the board, I want to, like I always make a point to just compliment and make sure our leaders know how much we appreciate them. I echo what Mrs. Lynch was saying about the decision by the board to open schools in September and keep them open safely, and then our staff, our teachers, making sure that that happens for our families, I think is wonderful. Behind the scenes and behind the curtains that no one can see is a very hardworking HR department that works with onboarding and communicating and making sure that these things happen. So I love the data that we saw. It almost shows that they haven't missed a beat. And I can say that that is not the case with many school districts in Arizona. So I appreciate Mrs. Lynch's leadership and all the staff, dedicated staff that she works with. One of the things we work hard at here in the district is to help people understand their connection to the classroom. And so every job is somehow connected to the wonderful kids and young people in our classrooms. And so I just appreciate HR and their steady hand in making sure we can help keep our schools open. So thank you, Caroline, wherever you disappeared to back there. So appreciate your work in your department.
Thank you. Item 4.2, fiscal year 2020-2021 budget update presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. This is the 6th in a series of budget updates on the state of the budget for the current year and the upcoming school year. And I have a PowerPoint that I've updated for you that I will go through. First and foremost, you've seen our budget priorities that we've been talking about throughout the year. Basically what this represents is trying to strike a balance for the district between the effects of the pandemic, the budget reduction, and the future of the district to maintain financial stability. For the current school year budget for fiscal year 2021, our adopted budget, and I think you've seen some of these figures, but a few have been updated a little bit. Our adopted budget for fiscal year 2021 was $36,539,000, and our December revised budget for 2021 dropped down to $30,798,000. And our May revised budget estimate we've got is approximately $32.5 million. Projected expenses for the current school year are looking to be approximately $33.9 million, which leaves a shortfall in this current year budget of about $1.3 million, or $1,351,000. And this represents the budget less our projected expenses, and then some of the effects of this are the enrollment stability grant allocation was less than expected, and our expenses for leave buyouts that we've just recently compiled for the employees leaving the district is going to affect the budget. But we're estimating about $1,351,000 deficit for the current school year. So for the budget reconciliation for the current school year, as projected at $1.35 million, we're talking about using one-time only funds, and this has been updated a little bit since we applied for the ESSER 2 grant. We obtained some information. Basically, this slide is going to be kind of turned upside down because we're going to use try to use a majority of the ESSER 2 grant for the reconciliation of the current year budget, because what I would like to do for the district is maintain as much balances, our current balances that we have in these other funds that I mentioned, for example, Medicaid reimbursement, E-rate, Civic Center, and then we were talking about our career and technical education, but that would only be for expenses that were applicable to that program. So we will certainly look at the amount of deficit we have remaining at the end of the year. The ESSER 2 grant is about $1,272,000, and this is going to, if we can use the entire amount for salaries and benefits that we applied for, it's going to put us within striking distance of balancing the budget for the current school year with these one-time monies for ESSER 2. So that's our intent. We just applied. In fact, I pressed the button today to apply for the ESSER 2 grant, and so it is into ADE waiting approval. So we should know shortly if there's any adjustments that we need to make in that grant application for those funds. So for the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022, as I said, our adopted budget limit for 2021, $36.5 million, and our proposed budget limit for fiscal year 2022 is going to be about a little less than $33 million. So we have an estimated shortfall of about $3.5 million. Although we have seen some increase in student count. However, this week I just looked at it, we're going back the other direction. So it's kind of been back and forth as to what we've kind of stabilized at about a little over 5,100 students, which our 100th day count for this last year was almost 5,500. So we're still hovering at several hundred students deficit from what we had in the prior year. So we're still watching that, hoping that we can turn that around. So what we've done for the budget reconciliation for next year is we've reorganized our district office and special ed departments and other departments, which is a reduction of about 60, or represents about 62% of the reductions. Our certified teacher RIF, because of decline in student enrollment, is about 38%. And then, just as a recap, our ESSER 1 grant was approximately $303,000, and we've used that for software and getting us off the ground with distance learning and also personal protective equipment for the district and cleaning supplies. And then, as I mentioned, the ESSER 2 grant is $1.2 million, and as indicated, we're going to use that to try to pay for salaries and benefits to balance a majority of the 2021 budget. And then the ESSER 3 grant has been announced. However, we don't have the allocation from the Department of Education as of yet. It's estimated to be about 2 times larger than the ESSER 2 grant. So we're estimating somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.7 million, roughly, that we'll have for that. Of that, approximately, or well, not approximately, 20% has to be used for remediation for student learning loss, And we have a meeting on April 19th to discuss that with the new directors and map out a plan for how we're going to use those funds, not only the remediation funds, but also the remainder of that, and to assess our technology needs, because since these are one-time funds, we're going to try to use those as efficiently as we possibly can, yet get the best bang for our buck, if you will. So this is just kind of a recap again of what we've done with the COVID relief funding. The ESG grant was spent back in December, and that was about $2.3 million. As I think you remember, we were projected to receive about $4.6 million on that, and I was actually on a Zoom meeting today of various districts around the state, and we were all basically crying the blues over the amount that we received from the Enrollment Stability Grant, because there were many districts that only received a portion of what they thought they were going to receive. So, but that was completely expended by December 30th, which is why our financials look a little different for December, because our payroll dropped by $2.3 million in December. The ESSER 1 grant is completely expended, although we do have, it's available for obligation through September 30th of this year. That was spent on personal protective equipment, cleaning supplies, and educational software primarily. The $1,272,000 for ESSER 2, there was about $80,000 that we have incurred over and above what we were able to put in ESSER 1, that we've allocated some of that money to ESSER 2 for additional PPE to finish the current fiscal year. In fact, I got a call from Mr. Santina today asking that we buy some more cleansing wipes to finish out the school year, and so we're going to do that, and part of that will be taken out of the ESSER 2 grant, and that is available for obligation through September 30th of 2022. And then, as I mentioned, ESSER 3, the 20% to address learning loss, and then the remainder of the funds may be used for the same purposes as ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, and are available for obligation through September the 30th of 2023. And again, these are one-time funds, so we are talking strategically about how we're going to use this funding to best benefit the district. So the next steps we're going to take is we're going to revise the current year budget on May the 10th, and then we're going to propose the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget on June 15th, and then adopt the budget for next school year on June 28th. And we are continually exploring options for enhanced funding for the district and looking at bonds, overrides, donations, grants, basically anything that we can to try to help bridge the gap between the non-COVID and COVID experience that we've had in the last year. So we are talking, in fact, I just mentioned to the departments under my supervision that we are basically launching a kind of a new campaign to tell our story. When they have the monthly meetings with me, when they bring things that, okay, we've been doing this and that in our departments, we're launching a campaign. Basically, we're going to have a new page on the website that we're going to start putting some of these items, that some of the good things that we're doing, we're going to put those out on the website and start advertising some of the things that we do that people never see. So hopefully that will engender a little bit of enthusiasm for what we do in the district. So, and we are talking about community outreach and trying to get students back for 21 or the 22 fiscal year. And if our demography is correct, we hope that we will see an influx of students for this next year, because that would be a great problem to have. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Mr. Leedy, of the ESSER 2 grant money, approximately how much of that is still left to be spent?
Approximately let's see, if we've spent about 80,000, so about a little over 1.1 million that we estimate. It depends a lot on what we spend for the remainder of this year on PPE and things of that nature, and cleaning supplies.
Okay.
Mr. Leedy, 400 students translates to approximately how many teachers? And I'm talking about the loss between the 100th day to today, approximately 400 students. So that.
Well, if you divide that by 25, which is an average for a class size, then it would be 20. Well, what is it? I can't do the math in my head right off the bat.
16.
Yeah, 16.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
And I asked these questions last time. I'm going to ask them again. The state funds us by student count, not programs, correct?
That's correct.
And programs can vary with population. We might have programs that are quite popular and have a high student count, and in programs with a lesser student count. And yet we still have to fund that teacher. And the state doesn't care. They don't care how things are funded. So it's up to us to figure out how to distribute the funding, correct?
That is correct, Mrs. Hatcher, yes. And that's one thing that we have to look at from the district standpoint is as you know, school finance is a very complicated prospect. And since when you look at the qualifications and the mandates from the State Board of Education for minimum adequacy standards for the school district, there's many, many, many things that we offer that are outside of those things that we try to offer to our students. Some of the examples are the full-day kindergarten, the IBB program, some of the immersion programs. Those are the things that are really nice for us to have, but we have to evaluate those based on another example on the other end are special education departments. We spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on additional costs for special education that we don't get reimbursed for. That all has to be done because that's mandated by law.
And we're in this budget, we're not cutting immersion, are we? We're restructuring versus cutting a program, correct?
That is correct.
Next year in the 2022-2023 school year, our district's thinking we're needing to spend money for the complete school year for PPE. Will it look like this year, do we think, in terms of expenditures and requirements?
Mrs. Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe, this is to be determined. We're hoping against hope that over the summertime and with the numbers that we've been putting up of late as far as new cases, that we've turned the corner and we won't have to spend near as much on cleaning supplies and PPE and all of that we have this year. So unless there's something, certainly the caveat is that if there is something that breaks loose over the summer, we'll have to react to it. But we're hoping that we can minimize the expenditures for that and then focus on technology and also learning loss and remediation for this next year.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Leedy. As usual, your presentations are very informative and they're very good.
Thank you.
Item 4.3, update on Excellence Committee, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. I'll just give you a brief recap of the Excellence Committee and the work that we've done over the last several months. That we started meeting, or the Excellence Committee started meeting in December to discuss election strategy and merits of holding an election in November of this year. There are approximately 37 members of the committee, with approximately 76% that participate regularly. The committee has had 4 meetings to date, and we have another meeting scheduled tomorrow afternoon, as a matter of fact, at 4 o'clock. The estimated tax rate for, and one of the things that we've pretty much settled on is that while there is a need for an M&O override election, that we believe that it's in the best interest of the district to go for the bond, and I'll get into some of those reasons a little bit later on. But in order to have a $40 million election, we would break that down into two sales, one of $25 million in 2022 and then $15 million in 2024, which would be an average of a little over 17, almost 18 cents per 100 of assessed value. So a homeowner with a value of the average of Class 3 residential property in the district of $535,000 would pay about $7.90 a month, or approximately 2 Starbucks per month for the additional bonds. And the projected subtotals that we've basically vetted throughout the district, and this also includes the capital needs assessment plan that we have, that we had our facilities management group review recently. We've tied a majority of the items that we have in our facilities section with our facilities master plan. So for technology, we've got about 11.85% of the bonds. Safety and security would be about $1 million. Facility improvements, which is the largest portion, at about $27.4 million, or 68.6%. And then athletics improvements, which would include field lighting, the later in the bond, and probably the second bond, to resurface the football field, because the turf is going to be approaching 10 years old, and that's when they recommend replacing the football field turf is in there. And then pupil transportation, which includes replenishing the bus fleet at about 10%, or $3.8 million. And so this is where we've come up with the $40 million to seek for the November election. So the final meeting of the Excellence Committee will be held tomorrow. The polling results are in, and they are overall actually favorable for the district. We've approximately 57% polled in favor of the election, and I believe that you've seen the results. But they said, if held today, would you vote in favor of a $40 million bond? And 57% said that they would vote for it. While this is not, it's not excellent, it's a very good indication, simply for the fact that if you look at the statistics of the survey, 78% were age 50 or older. And so that indicates that these are residents or voters that don't have students in our district. And when you drill down a little farther, there were several, or a large percentage, that did never have students in our district. So 54% have owned their home for more than 10 years, and 43% had never been a parent of a student in the district. So we feel encouraged by this, while we would like to see that it would be in the 60% range to give us a high confidence level. This is still, I think, very good results for the numbers that we put up over the last several years. So we're hopeful, and so if deemed appropriate, then the administration will present resolutions to the governing board May 10th to call for the election November the 2nd of 2021. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you.
Questions? Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Leedy.
Thank you.
Item 4.4, I would like an agenda request where the board is given an update on discerned achievement gaps, requested by me, Member Hatcher, presented by Dr. Court Monroe.
And President Hatcher, members of the board, Tim, if you want to put that PowerPoint up there, I'd like to walk you through a PowerPoint that kind of illustrates this data. I want to thank the Teaching and Learning Department for putting this presentation together. Dr. Miller is not here tonight, so I'll attempt to do my best in her stead here to walk the board through some of this data here.
Okay, hold I didn't know that we were having a PowerPoint. I didn't see that because they didn't put it on my drive.
Is there a way we can get that?
It's part of, oh, it's part of the board book. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Are you guys able to see it on the board book?
Well, hold on. I can do it that way. If it's in there, it's right. The only problem is with this, we will have to rotate. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so we're just go ahead and go to the next slide, Tim. We're going to look at our data with regards our student assessment data on our benchmark assessments with math and ELA from the past 3 years to see where we can identify any potential gaps that have occurred because of the pandemic. As the board is aware, you can see, I'm not going to read through all these bullet points, but a benchmark assessment, they're given periodically throughout the year, so we can make sure our students are learning what they should be learning, which is what we're teaching. The benchmark assessments, they're the same for each year, and they have the same performance levels. So what you're going to see is data from 2019, 20, and 21. In 2019, it was determined that proficiency on the benchmark, so these assessments that we take, highly correlate to proficiency on AZ merit. So what that told us is our benchmark assessments were fairly accurate to determine how a student might do on the AZ merit test in April. And so just a note, all data used in these charts comes from our current CCUSD students who participated in the benchmarks all 3 years, so you'll see that. And these benchmark assessment, the students that participate in those are the students who also participate in our standardized testing that's occurring right now in grades 3 through 8 and in the 10th grade. We do not have standardized testing data for kindergarten to second grade students. We have other assessments such as DIBELS, which is like a literacy screener. And then just a note, last year due to the pandemic, the benchmark assessment for our 10th graders was a bit derailed for various reasons. So Tim, go to the next one. So I think these you'll be able to see some of these charts, and these charts look the same. However, I want to tell you that this chart, the proficiency rate on our English Language Arts District benchmark over the last 3 years by test level, what's important to know is if you look at the right, this is a 3-year look at our benchmark proficiency rates by test grade level. Okay, so this is a different group of students taking that assessment each year and how they have scored either meeting the standards or exceeding the standards. So you can see at the bottom, along that axis there, you have grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then along that axis, you can see the 3 benchmark years, and then also included is the AZM year. And you can see that there's maybe a drop here in the 3rd grade, slight drop maybe in the 6th grade from the year before. But for the most part, there's not significant gaps. We'll see a little more of some of the gaps in math, but you don't see it in ELA across these 3 years here. So let's go to the next one.
Dr. Monroe,
Yeah,
can I stop
please.
you just for a second? In 8th grade, the AZ merit score dips significantly compared to its benchmarks. And, I'm just wondering if they know why that happens.
Well, President Hatcher, that's what I told is that's been something that the teaching and learning department, along with our principals, have studied for quite some time. Overall, across the state, including in Cave Creek, we need to figure out why our assessment scores typically go down in middle school, and there's probably various reasons for it. But you'll see that also in our math. But for some reason, when students in Arizona hit 7th and 8th grade, you'll see that the scores go down for various reasons. When we go to math, we'll see that algebra, even though it's introduced very early on in the standards, Algebra 1 can be a tough course that students a lot of times fail. And so you'll see, for example, in our 8th grade math, you'll see those scores go down. I don't have a definitive answer for you, President Hatcher, at this time. I think, along with a lot of other school districts in Arizona, we need to crack the code of why we see that trend in our middle school or junior high grades. why they typically go down. Is it apathy? Is it adolescence? Is it quality of teachers? Is it the instruction? Is it the materials? We really need to isolate those variables and figure out why that is. But I will say it's not Cave Creek alone, unfortunately. So go on, Tim, and you'll see it's a little more pronounced in our math here with regards to our benchmark. You'll see the same type of thing at the bottom. You'll see the grade levels. You'll see the years. And again, this is students testing at that grade level. So Tom Espy, who put this together, he calls that replacement groups. So what that means is that's a different group of students taking that assessment each year. But to your point, President Hatcher, you could see in the 8th grade, in our 8th grade math, between the benchmark and 20 to 21, those are gaps that we need to be able to figure out why that happens. Mr. Leedy included earlier that we'll be meeting on our ESSER 3. Our ESSER 3 is one-time money that we're getting, but 20% of that is slotted to be used for learning loss. So I think you can see here very, very key, what are some programs that we can do to support our middle school students or anywhere where there's gaps so that we can support any type of learning loss that may have happened during the pandemic. But as you can see, the scores are a bit more pronounced, the gaps in math, than they are ELA. Now, go on, Tim. Now, this data that looks different, this is the same chart, but the difference here is it follows a group of students. So this is a cohort group of students. So for example, in 6th grade, if you were to say 2019 6th graders were at 81% met or exceeded the standard, then you'd follow that group to 2020, and they went from 81% to 80%. And then in 2020 to 2021, that group went from 80% to 66%. So this data is a little different because it follows that cohort group of students through the data. And again, although there's some gaps in ELA, they're definitely more pronounced in our math. Cohorts, I'd like to make the point at the bottom that Tom put on here. Cohorts historically score lower as grade levels increase, and that happens across data, and that happens across scores in general as the students get older. And then finally, you'll see the same chart here for math. And again, this is the cohort group of students. So again, if you take what I mentioned earlier, let's say grade 6, 2019, 69% of those students either met or exceeded the standards, exceeded the standards. You'd follow that to the grade 7, when 2020 it went up to 87%, and then when you go to 2021, it plummets down to 30%. Why is that? Those are the kind of things that we need to figure out, because that follows the same group of students on that assessment over 3 years. So those are the two differences in this data that were presented, so you guys could see it following a group of students, and then just kind of the one time when the students take the assessment just that 1 year. And so that kind of illustrates, as far as our math and our ELA, some of the gaps that may exist and that we need to be able to account for. Next slide, Mr. Leedy. Oh, there is one more slide. Let me just tell you, okay, overall, in summary, we saw that the ELA, there wasn't nearly as much drop-off, or ELA, there was minimal differences, whereas the math scores were slightly lower, although the math scores did match to 2019. So as we talk about interventions for students, and as we talk about making up, how do we make the difference? One of the approaches we need to take as we look at some of these learning loss monies and ESSER monies is, what does that individual student intervention look like from that teacher, individualized? Because as you could see, it wasn't nearly across the board, but are there cohorts of students, are there grade levels of students across our district that need more time, need more support, need more options during the summer, during the breaks, that we can help them so that we can make up any gaps? I am confident in what the data that I've seen, and in talking with principals, that our data is going to look very strong after we take our standardized assessment. I will say, I think we have been in school since September the 7th, or September the 8th, rather. A lot of districts have opened and closed, or a lot of districts haven't been open. So our students have had face-to-face in-person learning, which we know is the best thing for our students, not only social emotionally, but academically. in saying that, I'm very confident that our results will be strong. I know our families and our students have dealt with a lot, but I know our teachers have really stepped up. So I guess my conclusion would be, my guess is any type of learning loss or gap that you might see in Cave Creek would pale in comparison to other districts. However, as a superintendent, for me, that's not good enough because these are our kids. So we need to make right by them. So I think you'll see in our ESSER 3 planning meeting, as we start to come up with a plan to account for some of these potential gaps and any learning loss, that there'll be opportunities for students and families to make that up.
Thank you. The board was given, I think it was last year maybe, some matrix where it was very good, and you could track cohorts, which I found interesting, on the easy merit. So, because probably really and truly, if you're a teacher, you're not going to focus on those benchmarks as much as those easy merit scores. And I do recall that the 8th grade cohort, when they got to 8th grade, I should say, the scores plummeted. And it made me wonder, because it was that same group of kids that had done okay, they'd done well, and then boom. And so, I'm not asking for a presentation on that. I'm just, wondering if anybody's paying attention to that, sort of to see why that is trending that way. Or do we have inadequate materials from which to teach, so on and so forth,
Yeah.
A lot of variables.
Yeah, President Hatcher, members of the board, there's a lot of variables to consider, especially during a COVID year. Heaven forbid a teacher was out or got sick and they were out or quarantined for 2 or 3 weeks. So to your point, there's a lot of variables. However, even outside of the pandemic, it's something we need to examine closely, because that we should not have that happening in our our middle school or our junior high. So yeah, there's definitely more work to be done here.
Dr. Monroe, we're currently testing, we're in a testing cycle right now. When will we see those results back? And then hopefully soon enough that we're able then to pivot and use those ESSER grant funds to react to what we see in those test results?
Well, Member Brown, that would be great. I wish I could confidently tell you that's the case, but having been in education a long time, it's usually longer than you anticipate. The last I was told was the beginning to the middle of July, which is challenging because we're already charging back up into our assessments. And so with the pandemic year, it's going to be a little more challenging. But there's things we can do. But we won't really have our hands on that or have that data accessible till likely after the 4th of July is what I've been told.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. All right. Item 5, action consent. Is there a motion to approve item 5, action consent, as amended per item 1.3?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 5, action consent, as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 5 is approved as amended. So now we'll go to item 5.2, which had been pulled. Item 5.2, human resource items. Is there a motion to approve item 5.2 as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion, questions? Anybody want to comment?
I just wanted to pull 5.2 out, and I believe Dr. Monroe has something to say after we approve 5.2, but I thought it was important that that's separate, that was separate from action consent tonight, just because of the scope of some of the items that were in 5.2.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 5.2, human resources, is approved.
And President Hatcher, members of the board, I'd like to read a few things here. First of all, the positions that the governing board approved tonight should communicate our commitment to providing the highest quality of services to our students and staff in our special education program. The elementary coordinator and the secondary coordinator positions have been designed so that we hired certificated special education professionals who are committed and experienced in developing our special education program, and our general education teachers so that students experience the entire continuum of services from pre-K through high school and beyond. Our top priorities for the elementary and secondary coordinators will be to ensure consistency in services at all our locations, to identify and develop our teachers to use the most effective research-based specialized instructional methods, and finally, to train all our teachers on inclusive practices so that we can be models in the region for what it means to offer the least restrictive environment for each student. The third position that was approved will be a bit more clerical in nature and has the responsibility of reviewing and maintaining student data files and special education records so that our teachers and special education support staff can primarily focus and specialize on providing high-quality instruction for our students. I'm really happy with that approval. That I'd like to congratulate a few people who have been named. I'd like to read a little something. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Stacy Weiss, who the board just approved to be the Director of Academic Services. Stacy is not here, just so you're aware. She is dealing with a death in her family, and so our thoughts and our prayers go out to her. She would have been here, and she's very excited. But let me just read something about Stacy. Stacy has over 18 years in education as a classroom teacher at a variety of levels at both the elementary and the middle school. She's worked as a Title I reading teacher, an instructional coach, an assessment coordinator, as well as a school administrator in Washington State before coming to Desert Willow as the principal 2 years ago. She has a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and a master's degree in educational leadership with specialized endorsements in reading and English language learners. She is also a certified trauma-informed educator. Stacy moved to Arizona with her husband, daughter, and 2 dogs in 2019 and loves spending time outside in our fantastic weather. I'm really happy for Stacy and for Mr. Dalzal, who I'm going to read next. I think their hire recognizes the quality leadership that we have in our district. And especially with someone who's as tenured as Mr. Dalzal, so many families have interacted with him and they know his heart and his dedication. So I'm really happy that they can become part of the district office team, although we're a large district team. So I think that speaks to the volume of the quality of these individuals. So Mr. Dalzal, do you want to come to the mic? I'm going to read something about Mr. Dalzal and then let him say his thanks or what he'd have to say to the board. So Mr. Bill Dalzal is the current principal of Sonoran Trails Middle School. I think everyone in this room probably knows him. And he served there for the past 12 years. He was the AD. A lot of people don't know this. He was the athletic director at Cactus Shadows High School for 1 year and the assistant principal at Dysart Elementary for 2 years prior to assuming the principal position. Prior to administration, he taught math, science, and social studies in both Arizona and Connecticut. Mr. Dalzal will finish this year strong and work closely with the next great leader of Sonoran Trails Middle School, who has not been named, obviously, to ensure a smooth transition. Bill lives in Phoenix with his wife, Karen, of 25 years, who's a music teacher. His 2 daughters, Sierra and Akela. Did I get that, girls? All right. And they graduated from Cactus Shadows High School. So again, they are our own. And they will finish their degrees in the next year in nursing and sports medicine. Great job, girls. So, Mr. Dalzal, how about a round of applause for Mr. Dalzal?
I think we can see him blush through the mask. That's a good job, Dr. Monroe.
President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe, I cannot tell you what nervous excitement and wonder I have right now to step into this new role, to become part of the new team, to really look at moving forward and where we're going to go and where we can take this district. Again, those of you that know me, I've moved out here in 1999. I've been at Sonoran Trails all but the 2 years, the 2 years in Dysart and 1 year at Cactus Shadows and there. And Sonoran Trails is in my heart. It was one of the heaviest things to do, to actually decide, is it time to go? Everything I've ever told anybody who comes into my office, kid or adult, is there comes a time in life to take a risk, to take a step. And this really became that next journey in my life, and I cannot express how pleased I am to have that offer and to join Dr. Monroe and the team we're putting together here. I think it's going to be dynamic, and it's going to get us doing the right thing for kids all the time. So thank you again for this opportunity.
May I say one thing about Mr. Dolezal? My 31-year-old son is an extreme introvert, and I can count on literally 3 fingers of the teachers who he has mentioned that made a difference, and Mr. Dolezal was one of them. So thank you. I'm happy that you're going to be leading us in this way.
Mr. Dolezal, you have touched many lives over the 12 years you've been at Sonoran Trails. I'm very excited for you because I think you will have a huge impact in your new role. But I will say, I'm going to miss your signature statement that you're the proud principal of Sonoran Trails.
Still got 2 months in me.
Yes, so, and happy anniversary.
I also just want to say, I think it's an outstanding view on our district. We have such quality candidates that we're able to hire from within and to give, our teachers a chance to move up, give our principals a chance to move up. And I think that speaks volumes for the Cave Creek CCUSD community. And I'm looking forward to both Mr. Dolezal and Ms. Weiss to really shine in their new positions. No pressure.
Just want to say that as a former Sonoran Trails teacher myself, spent there 3 years, just seeing the optimism, the passion that he brought every day, I'm really enthused for what he'll bring to the district. So I'm really, congratulations.
And I have one more, Mr. Karpinski, if you want to come up to the microphone. I really appreciate the board's comments. I do think, to Bill's point, we're assembling the team of Avengers, and we have a lot of internal talent. We've been able, people want to work in the Cave Creek Unified School District, and so I'm happy that we're also attracting a lot of external talent. And let me introduce to you Mr. Michael Karpinski. I'm going to read a little bit about him. The board just approved him as our Director of Exceptional Services, so that's the Special Education Department. Michael earned his BA in Special Education, as well as a BA in Elementary Education from ASU. He also earned a Master's of Arts from Michigan State University, with concentrations in Special Education and Sport Leadership and Coaching. Currently, he's completing his ED Specialist program with Wayne State University in Special Education Administration. Throughout his career in special education, Michael has worked with students with disabilities across multiple eligibility categories and age ranges from kindergarten through young adults in both Arizona and Michigan. For the past 2 school years, he served as the principal for a special education program school with the Mesa Public Schools. He is passionate about working with students with disabilities to meet their academic, social, emotional, and post-secondary goals. His wife, Rebecca, is in their back there. Wave, Rebecca. She's also a special educator, and they've been married for 17 years now. They are originally from Michigan and lived in Scottsdale now for almost 10 years. They have 2 beautiful daughters, Liliana and Stella. Did I get that? All right, girls, Liliana and Stella. And they have 2 dogs that aren't here that they rescued when they were pups. So let's give Mr. Karpinski a round of applause.
President Hatcher, board members, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to come up and join such a wonderful community and to be a part of a positive, proactive team that is going to be student-centered. And I'm very excited for this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Monroe, as well. I'm thrilled to be standing right here at this podium today, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Karpinski dropped a little truth nugget a little earlier today, saying, "Did you hike Black Mountain twice this past weekend?"
Yesterday.
Twice. So he might be a little wobbly there. So.
Okay. Is that good, Dr. Monroe? Are you finished? Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Member Brown, for pulling that out so that we could acknowledge, because we can't when it's inside the consent agenda. So, All right, item 6.1, old business, revision to school year 2020-2021 calendar, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatchers, member of the board, and Dr. Monroe. Cactus Shadows High School wants to have an in-person graduation experience on the football field this year. In order to offer an in-person graduation, the company that is able to provide the staging, sound, lighting, and live streaming is not available on May 20th, but is available on May 19th. This change will not necessitate a calendar change, but because of the requirement in Governing Board Policy IC, the school year shall be not less than 180 instructional days or an equivalent number of minutes of instruction per school as defined by state law. May 20th is the 180th day of the academic calendar and therefore is required as an attendance day. This is also, as a footnote, we're swapping dates for the high school, middle school. So middle school is going to be on the 20th, middle school is going to be on the 19th, high school is going to be on the 20th this year. So with that said, administration will recommend that the governing board approve the revised 2021 school year calendar as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there questions for Mr. Leedy? Okay. Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 6.1 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 6.1 is approved as presented. Item 6.2, approval of revised 2021-2022 salary schedules and ranges, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. The administration is presenting for approval of the following revised salary schedule and ranges for the 2021-2022 school year. As a footnote, this item 6.2 was under old business as a revision to the schedule, or it was approved on February 8th under new business and revised on March 8th under old business. And because of the reorganization and changes in job descriptions of late, it's necessary to revise these salary schedules once more. As indicated, we're revising the 2021-2022 administrative salary range and retitling the 2021-2022 classified exempt salary range to the 2021-2022 exempt salary range, because there are now people on the exempt salary schedule that are certificated employees. And also there's been some changes to the 2021-2022 classified support staff. So therefore the administration would recommend that the governing board approve the following revised salary schedules and ranges for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Leedy, when we do these kinds of things, I know HR doesn't just make salaries up. So do they look at the industry? Is that how they get the range?
President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe, that's part of it. What we do is we look at experience levels and place people on the salary ranges based on experience and also based on as much as we can. We can't follow entirely because of our funding structure, but trying to emulate the surrounding, or at least our comparable districts anyway.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 6.2 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. Item 6.2 is approved as presented. Item 7, new business. 7.1, medical benefits renewal for 2021-2022, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. The district is in year 2 of a 5-year bid for employee health insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And rather than rebid for coverage for next year, the district felt that it was advantageous to negotiate with our existing provider. 2 top priorities expressed by staff in interest-based negotiations were to maintain 100% paid employee health insurance and grant a cost of living raise. After negotiation with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the district was able to change its plan to a narrower provider network and make changes to affect a savings of approximately $100 per month per employee, while still offering a fully paid employee health benefit and providing the ability to give a cost of living raise to employee. In addition to the ability to give a cost of living increase, overall employee contributions for health insurance premiums will decrease by approximately 11%, and I've attached the corresponding rates for the current and projected costs. And this is quite a savings on both the district side and the employee side for this next year, based on the changes in our plan design. So therefore, the administration would recommend that the governing board approve the medical benefits renewal with Blue Cross Blue Shield for 2021-2022 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Are there questions for Mr. Leedy or comments?
Mr. Leedy, will we, at this time next year, have to then go back to Blue Cross and see if we can twist our arm again for the 22-23 school year?
President Hatcher, Member Brown, yes, that's what we intend on doing. We're hoping that our claims picture for this next year is such that they don't come back with another significant increase, but we do have some negotiating power with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.1 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Item 7.1 is approved as presented. Item 7.2, Educational Services, Inc., Employee Staffing Agreement for the 2021-2022 school year, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. This item represents a renewal of the contract with Educational Services Incorporated. The agreement allows the district to contract for services of school personnel at a reduced rate after employees have retired from Arizona State Retirement System. The retire-rehire process will be offered to employees who are eligible to retire and return to their position at a rate of 85% that allows for the alternative contribution rate of 10.21% and processing fees to be deducted. Therefore, administration would recommend that the governing board approve the Educational Services Incorporated Employee Staffing Agreement for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? This is what was formerly Smart Schools, right? Or we used to know it as Smart Schools.
President Hatcher, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Leedy, you may or may not be able to answer this. Do we have an idea of a number of staff that will take advantage of this ESI contract for us next year?
President Hatcher, Member Brown, at this point we don't, but because it could vary depending on the number of employees that choose to retire into the Arizona State Retirement System and their want to stay employed with the district. So it varies by year.
But they will need to notify the district there's a deadline in there, right? So we can initiate the
Correct.
contract and do all the...
That's correct.
So it'd be probably before the
Soon.
start of the year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Right. Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.2 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.2 is approved as presented. Item 7.3, amendment to the July 1st, 2019 intergovernmental agreement by and between East Valley Institute of Technology number 401 and Cave Creek Unified School District, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher. Members of the board, Dr. Monroe, attached for your approval tonight is a copy of the amendment to the July 1, 2019 intergovernmental agreement by and between East Valley Institute of Technology and Cave Creek Unified School District. The current IGA is in effect until June 2022. Legal counsel for the Arizona Department of Education had concerns with how the IGA transferred portions of the Perkins District funds to EVIT annually. This addendum clarifies the formula, and as a bit of further information, this was the Department of Education obtained an opinion from Brunstein Manischewitz, PLC in Washington, that determined that the Department of Education does not have discretion to deviate from the statutory funding formula i.e. it cannot add 10% to EVIT's student count. Therefore, to simplify the matter, EVIT proposes that they amend Section 9D to conform with the statute, which will eliminate the 10% added to EVIT's student count. Therefore, administration would recommend that the governing board approve the amendment to the July 1, 2019 intergovernmental agreement by and between East Valley Institute of Technology number 401 and Cave Creek Unified School District as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Mr. Leedy, with this change now, instead of it being, I'm reading this as a flat 10%, will there be a little bit of savings to the school district for the next school year underneath our agreement here till June of 22?
President Hatcher, Member Brown, I don't believe so, because I think this was an add-on that the Department of Education was putting on there, and per this agreement that they're not going to take that out. So I'm not aware of any savings that the district will receive.
Okay, thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that item 7.3 be approved as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.3 is approved as presented. Item 7.4, C-Power Master Service Agreement for Arizona Public Services Company, Peak Solutions, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. The APS Peak Solutions program is a voluntary, no-penalty program that pays APS business and school customers to reduce electrical usage periodically during the program months of June 1st through September 30th. The customer chooses what electrical curtailment nominations to enroll into. When called upon to participate, the district will initiate the electrical load shedding protocol to reduce power usage. APS sends a check before the end of the calendar year for $40 per kilowatt hour saved. An anticipated savings for the district our size is approximately 290 kilowatt hours or $11,600. This could vary either way depending on the events called and for how long they are. Our attorney has reviewed this agreement, and as a footnote to this one, this is, again, this is a no penalty. This is a win-win for the district. We can choose not to participate if there's an event coming up and we can't participate in the curtailment event. We just pass on it. So there's basically no downside that we can see to this this agreement. So therefore, administration would recommend that the governing board approve the C-Power Master Services Agreement for Arizona Public Services Company, Peak Solutions, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Am I clear on this, Mr. Leedy, that this is a 5-year program which will go to May of 2026?
President Hatcher, Member Brown, that's my understanding, yes. And we can, again, this is for the summer months, and because of the vacancy of the buildings, generally we can participate in this program.
Now, how does this affect our facilities that work with the solar power, the panels in their parking lots? Are we able to draw more from the solar panels and cut back on the APS usage?
To my knowledge, no, it won't be affected.
Okay.
This will just be for, primarily this is for like chiller motors, for air handlers, large electricity usage items that will just save kilowatt hours from being used from APS.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.4 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Item 7.4 is approved as presented. Item 7.5, award of RFP for voluntary employee dental and vision insurance, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. On January 25th, 2021, the governing board determined that it was appropriate to use a request for proposal process to review and select a vendor carrier to provide voluntary employee dental, vision, and vision insurance to eligible district employees. The RFP process gives the district the right to award a contract which price is not the sole determinant of award. On February 2nd, 2021, the RFP was posted on AZ Purchasing, and the closing date of this RFP was February 19th at 12 p.m. 8 proposals were received for dental and 6 proposals for vision. All proposals were received before the deadline. On March 24th, 2021, the District Insurance Committee met with Siegel Group and discussed the analysis and merits of the various vendor proposals. The proposals were evaluated on the following criteria: responsiveness to the district's requirements, qualifications of the vendor, cost and past performance. And this contract will begin with the 2021-2022 fiscal year with the option to renew each year for up to 4 additional periods. In accordance with the school district procurement rule, it has been determined that the proposal submitted by Delta Dental and Employee Dental Services, HMO for Dental and Vision Service Plan Insurance Company for Vision have met the criteria stated in the RFP, and the prices proposed were fair and reasonable. The Insurance Committee was composed of Mr. Tim Leedy, Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Caroline Lynch, Director of Human Resources, Ms. Nancy McCrossin, Benefits Coordinator, Mr. John Povinelli, Senior Vice President of Siegel Group, and Mr. Brian King, Senior Health Consultant of Siegel Group. Based upon plan design, provider network, and price, the recommendation to accept the proposals by Delta Dental, Employers Dental Services, and Vision Service Plan Insurance Company was unanimous among the committee members. Therefore, the administration would recommend that the governing board approve the award of RFP number 21-01-26, voluntary employee dental and vision insurance to Delta Dental, Employers Dental Services, and Vision Service Plan Insurance Company, VSP.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.5 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.5 is approved as presented. Item 7.6, award of RFP for basic voluntary life insurance and voluntary short-term disability, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. On January 25th, 2021, the governing board determined that it was appropriate to use the request for proposal RFP process to review and select a vendor carrier to provide basic voluntary life insurance and voluntary short-term disability for district employees. The RFP process gives the district the right to award a contract in which price is not the sole determinant of award. On February 2nd, 2021, the RFP was posted to AZ Purchasing, and the closing date for the RFP was February 25th, 2021 at 12 p.m. 6 proposals were received for basic voluntary life insurance and 6 proposals for voluntary short-term disability. All proposals were received before the deadline. On March 24th, 2021, the district's insurance committee met with Siegel Consulting and discussed the analysis and merits of the various vendor proposals. The proposals were evaluated on the following criteria: responsiveness to district requirements, qualifications of vendor, cost, and past performance. This contract will begin with the 2021-2022 fiscal year with the option to renew for each year up to 4 additional years. In accordance with the school district procurement rules, it is determined that the proposal submitted by Oaks Incorporated, Minnesota Life, Basic Life and Voluntary Life, and Lincoln Financial Group for voluntary short-term disability have met the criteria as stated in the RFP, and that the prices proposed were fair and reasonable. And I'm not going to read the insurance committee because we've already gone over that. Therefore, the administration will recommend that the governing board approve the award of RFP number 21-03-26 to Oaks Incorporated, Minnesota Life, and Lincoln Financial Group for short-term disability.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, are there questions or comments? All right, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.6 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.6 is approved as presented. Item 7.7, revision to fiscal year 2020-2021 schedule for business and work study governing board meetings, presented by Dr. Court Monroe.
President Hatcher, Governing Board, the following dates were approved at the November 18th, 2019 Governing Board Business Meeting, and administration is requesting moving the June 14th, 2021 business meeting, that's on a Monday, to Tuesday, June the 15th, 2021, and you can see the schedule there below with June 14th crossed out to make that June 15th. The administration would recommend that the governing board take the following action. Move that the governing board approve the fiscal year 2020-2021 revision of moving the June 14th, 2021 meeting to June 15th, 2021 as presented to allow for professional learning for cabinet staff on that day.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.7 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.7 is approved as presented. Item 7.8, intergovernmental agreement with the City of Scottsdale for School Resource Officer for 2021-2022, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. Attached is a copy of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Scottsdale and Cave Creek Unified School District. This IGA establishes the position of School Resource Officer at Cactus Shadows High School and outlines the responsibilities of each party. The term of this agreement is for the effective date of July 1st, 2021 until June 30th of 2022. The annual cost will be $77,651, which is 50% of the total cost. The City of Scottsdale will pay the remaining 50% of the total cost, and this agreement has been reviewed and signed by our attorney. Therefore, the administration would recommend that the governing board approve the IGA between the City of Scottsdale and Cave Creek Unified School District for the School Resource Officer for 2021-2022 as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Just the comment, Mr. Leedy, comparing this agreement with the agreement we have currently, it's an increase of $4,912. I went back and tried to find my 2019 meeting notes and failed miserably today. So I couldn't see where we were at 2 years ago. So I'm assuming that $4,900 increase is comparable to 19 to 20.
President Hatcher, Member Brown, I believe that is the benefit cost increases, if I remember correctly. But if not, I can go back and check.
No, that's you're not too alarmed with that
No.
$5,000 increase? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not too
As long as you're good with it.
I was surprised to see the breakdown of the benefit cost as opposed to our employees. It's phenomenal. So.
And Member Brown, I'll also comment, it's my intention to get this salary completely off our books through the school safety grant, but that cycle has been interrupted and disrupted quite a bit. We also have an SRO at Sonoran Trails Middle School, so if that cycle starts up again, we'll apply for that cycle, because the idea would be that grant could pay 100% of the salary, so then Scottsdale and us wouldn't be on the hook for 50%. So that's the intention.
That would be great.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.8 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.8 is approved as presented. Item 7.9, approval of the salary schedules and ranges for the 2021-2022 school year, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. This is the companion piece to item 6.2 as discussed earlier. Item 7.2 under new business are items not yet presented to the governing board, primarily for certified hiring guidelines, salary for ECS support staff, and approval of the supplemental pay schedules for teachers. Therefore, administration would recommend that the governing board approve the salary schedules and ranges for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Leedy, a question on the, if I scroll back to the high school supplemental rates, some of the stipends or some of the items that says to be paid by team funding, so is that being financed by the students on their pay-to-play? The number that they have to pay, that funding's directed to pay for those coaching positions?
What page is that,
Oh,
Mr.
high
Brown?
school supplement coaches, it's down almost to the,
Almost to the bottom?
yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Keep going.
Okay.
Should be, I think the next one, there you go. See, a few of those are noted based on team funding. I was like, that's from what we charge to pay to play?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's from the extracurricular tax credit money.
Okay.
That's a chunk, isn't it? Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that item 7.9 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.9 is approved as presented. Item 8, future agenda items. Dr. Monroe? None? Okay. Item 9, upcoming calendar events.
On May the 12th, President Hatcher, members of the board, we have our Inspire Excellence Awards, that it would be wonderful if the board has time that evening to come and see some of our employees, those who are being recognized, and that will be at the Fine Arts Center. So we're going to make sure we're spread out there and that we can get that recognition back for our employees. May 19th is our Cactus Shadows High School graduation. That will be on the football field, our commencement. That'll be at 7 p.m. And then the following day on May 20th is our Sonoran Trails Middle School celebration, a series of celebrations that are happening, broken up into 3 or 4 different groups during the day at the Fine Arts Center. So we kind of have a contingency plan in place that day in case, weather permitting, we had to do something to switch the high school graduation to the next night, that Sonoran Trails could accommodate that. So would love to have the board participate in those as they're available.
Thank you. Item 10, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.